one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This meeting is being live streamed by Chelmsford Telemedia and posted to the CPS website for interested community members to access and watch. In-person public participation will be taking place tonight in accordance with the Chelmsford School Committee public participation policy. Anyone speaking tonight during the public input portion of this meeting is notified the superintendent's office of the desire to speak and provided with these guidelines. Upon request, written comments received no later than 12 p.m. on the day of the meeting will also be read and made part of the record of the meeting during the second public comment session. So welcome to this meeting of the Chelmsford School Committee. Our first order of business is to approve our minutes from our meeting on December 3rd.
I move that we approve the minutes of the regular school committee meeting of December 3rd, 2024.
Second.
All right, any corrections that people have in the minutes? Okay, all those in favor of approval?
Aye.
5-0. All right, next up are our student representatives.
Lori Trahan announced Chelmsford High School students Obina Onyemawa, Wilson Ochi, and Ken Smith Traveris as the winners of the 3rd Congressional District's annual Congressional App Challenge. Their app, EcoSense, was selected by judges from a pool of many submissions from middle and high schools who participated in this year's competition. The EcoSense app provides data on nearby water stations and animal habitats, mapping geographic coordinates to locate species across the country. It tracks and records animals sighted, displays water quality statistics, and compares these to the government's safety standard. And the long-awaited 2-week winter break officially starts on December 20th.
The Student Council is running a Gifts for Teen Drive, collecting donated new and unused items for teenagers in our community to use and appreciate. So far, a total of 148 items have been donated. And to add some holiday spirit to this great act of service, the Plus Block that will donate the most items is rewarded with a holiday breakfast this Friday. And then freshman Sophia Lynn was awarded first place in an art contest at the Chelmsford Climate Action Team and the Chelmsford Public Library sponsored back in Maine. Her submission was called Imagine a World. It featured a polar bear, sea turtle, and other living things that had been impacted by changing climate. And our high school's gift club has been working closely with the Paul Center this month. With the holiday festival taking place this past Saturday, there was a hot chocolate station, face painting, a bonfire, s'mores, gift wrapping, and a hayride, and some popcorn and letters to Santa.
Great, thank you very much. All right, any other good news?
Nothing specific, but just to piggyback on what you just heard from the high school, there's just been a lot of activities at the school just leading up to the vacation week. People are very excited about that. So it's a lot of energy that's happening, a lot of spirit weeks. 2 weeks off. Yes, even Dr. Lang is very excited about what's going on. So keep in spirit of what's happening for this week. The schools are just going to continue to have some fun. They're traveling to go see concerts. I know I spoke about the concerts a lot at the last meeting. They're still happening. Actually, one's happening tonight as we speak. So if you can still make anything, that would be great.
All right, anybody else have any good news they want to share?
I just want to say I wasn't able to attend any of the concerts, but I've heard great things about them. The people I know who went said that they were fabulous. So good news for that.
Great. It's probably come out before. We got an email today about NEASC and the high school officially was granted their accreditation again for another, 10 years is it now?
Yes.
So,
process.
yeah, so not surprising, but it's good news that
Yes.
that task is done and now.
They'll
10 years
continue
from
on. There's still some items that they'll be working on just because they'll have reviews as they go along, but it's great news to know they received their accreditation.
Great. All right, anybody else? Okay, all right, no public comment?
No public comments.
Great, so we'll move to new business.
We'll jump right in. And tonight, we're going to welcome up McCarthy Middle School. So I know we have Principal Parks and Assistant Principal Calabrese here with some students and staff from McCarthy. As you know, the first meeting of each month, we try to highlight one of the schools and some of the work that they're doing on their school improvement plans and work with students in their buildings. And this month, we're going to take a look at some of the activities happening in the 7th and 8th grades over at McCarthy. So we'll let them get set up, and then they can jump in whenever they like. And I thank everyone for coming out on the week before the break. I know everyone's busy, but it's great to hear what's happening.
So we have a fairly sizable group here, so we're gonna make it work, right? I'd just like to start off by saying thank you for having us. This is one of the things that all principals look forward to being able to do this early in the year. It's nice to see the student reps, you know, Lana, my good friend back from the Parker days, and then Patrick's one of our rugby players at the high school, so it's good to see these guys stepping up and taking on this role too. It's very exciting, so we appreciate it. It's good to see you both. Just like to start off and just ask the team to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Carrie Calabrese, Assistant Principal at McCarthy Middle School.
I'm Julia Gannon. I'm the STEP counselor at McCarthy.
I'm Emma Marino. I'm a student rep at McCarthy. I'm Addie Mealy, and I'm also a student rep.
So here's just a quick look at the agenda. These are the three areas that we'll be highlighting for you tonight. Talking about year 2 of the reconfiguration and, you know, a little bit of an overview there. Ms. Gannon will talk to us about the STEP program, and then Addie and Emma will talk about our student leadership opportunities. So to start off, we have 2 primary school improvement goals each year. And our student achievement goal, you can see written up on the board, is in direct alignment with the strategic plan academic goal, really focusing on mathematics K-8. But for us, we have, you know, obviously just our 7th and 8th graders at McCarthy. So one of the initiatives that I wanted to highlight, it's a pretty exciting opportunity that we're working through in partnership with the DM group. I trust that you've heard those folks before. But with the DM group, they have a specific program, Breakthrough Results. And it's a very intense 10-week cycle that we're working on primarily with our 7th and 8th grade students in our grade level math classes. And what it looks like is the teachers got together and identified specific standards for each grade. The teachers are doing ongoing progress monitoring with students, again, in those grade level classes, in order to try to really kind of help the students progress and identify in a few different areas that they will be seeing on MCAS. For the teachers' part, they have weekly meetings that are facilitated by a team leader. So our team leader in 7th grade is Jackie Heslin, and in 8th grade it's Glenn Marr. Glenn and Jackie both get about an hour of weekly coaching with a performance coach through the DM group. And then they take that skill that they're building and facilitate the discussion with their own colleagues, really kind of diving into the data, seeing what they want to do for the next part of the initiative, you know, kind of changing their assessments, what they're doing in classes. So those grade level classes are really seeing a lot of parity with the teachers focusing and working on very, very similar things. Again, with the hope that we'll be able to see some specific student progress through this 10-week cycle. I think probably later on this year, at some point when Catherine Richard, our new mathematics department coordinator, comes, she'll probably be speaking, you know, maybe in a little bit more detail about this, but we're at about the halfway point, the 5-week point of this 10-week cycle. So it's pretty exciting to watch the teachers really come together as they're only in their 2nd year working together. But again, the leadership that Jackie and Glenn are giving, it's pretty cool to watch them you know, step into it a little bit nervously in the beginning, but to be able to participate in the meetings now and seeing how well they're moving is it's pretty fun to watch. So stay tuned for more on that. Ms. Calabrese is going to talk to you about our 2nd improvement goal.
Sure. Our 2nd improvement goal is school climate, and we believe this is an important goal for our school as this is our 2nd year housing upper middle school students, 7th and 8th graders. The data points that we used to craft this goal included staff feedback from year 1 as an upper middle school. We solicited feedback from our students, and we also took a dive into our SEL data. There are 2 times during the year where we survey our students in the realm of social emotional learning. And one particular data point that was important for us is the students' perspective and their sense of belonging within the school community. So we take a look at those data points, and it was very important for us to craft this goal. Some of the things that we're going to do to bring this goal to life this year is we're continuing a lot of the foundations that we laid down last year with our PBIS framework. And within that framework, one of the most important things we're doing is constantly teaching, reteaching school-wide expectations, but also rewarding students on the spot when we see students unsolicited demonstrating those expectations. Also, we're rewarding students with Pride tickets when they take those extra steps and go above and beyond. That's one of our favorite things to see. And every week we have a raffle, and we pull about 10 winners per week. And because we use student feedback to help craft our activities, we know that our teenagers in 7th and 8th grade are very much into eating. So a lot of our prizes with the raffle are different food establishments in the Drum Hill area, because we're also aware that our students like to stroll over there after school on Friday afternoons and whatnot for a little social time. So it's really worked out well and it's created quite a buzz within the student population. Also, we like to plan opportunities, school-wide activities for our students and staff to engage with each other outside of the academic setting. So our PBIS team typically plans a school-wide activity every 6 weeks or so. And it's an opportunity for students and staff to engage in ultimate volleyball or watch a Minute to Win It type of game show. We're also building our framework to bring in outside performers for assemblies that also touch upon, that character messaging and goal-setting messaging. So that's something that's a plus as well. To bring all these things to life, we wouldn't be able to do it without a lot of different people in our building. We have a fabulous group of volunteer staff members. They've named themselves the Bring On the Fun Committee, and that they have since the beginning of this year. They are responsible for bringing the staff together. They have organized, before school early morning coffee meetings where staff can come and socialize. They have organized staff luncheons on the half-day professional development days, which has been a huge hit this year. And we're just coming off of one of our favorite activities that it's been known in our school the past few years is reindeer games. That is a daily challenge in the days leading up to the vacation, where teachers are given a certain holiday-related type challenge, and they're able to lean on students, whether it's trivia-based questions or, historical facts, things from pop culture that has to do with holidays and certainly holidays around the globe. So that's created a buzz as well. And all of these things we feel are important because they just bring our community within the community together. And we know that how important that is where we are in year 2, and we did merge 2 staff teams and we did merge 2 student populations. So, but this is the last year we're going to talk about the merging. One of the other things that was important for us to keep that sense of community, this was a big piece of feedback that came back from our staff members, and that was the teaming structure that they believe would be most beneficial and most opportunistic for staff and students in our school. So right now, we have established our teaming structures. So we have 4 teams. And there are approximately 200 students on each team. We have an 8 maroon and an 8 white, a 7 maroon and a 7 white. And there resides 200 students on each of those teams. And within those teams, the 200 students are broken into an A and B cohort. What our goal is although our campus and our building is rather large, our goal is to create a small school feel. And we believe that our teaming structure this year is doing that. So with the A and B cohorts, with having that 200 broken down into 100 and change on each team, each of those teams has become localized with their own English language arts teacher, science teacher, history teacher, math teacher, and world language teacher. So this population of 100 and something students will rotate amongst those 5 teachers daily. And the teachers are able to get to know the student profiles better. Of course, students get to know the personalities of the teachers better, and that helps to strengthen our student and teacher relationships. Our specialists and our counseling and school psychology staff, they will see a bulk of the students across all teams because of the different supports. And of course, our service providers will see a lot of those kids across teams as well. So with that being said, we feel that the team the teaming is really helping us build that strong sense of community.
A few more things that we'd like to highlight is within the school, and for those of you who have visited, you know that this was a kind of a long-standing project, but the vestibule is done in the main lobby area. It's been working great. The whole, I guess, quote-unquote storefront of the building has been updated and upgraded, so all new doors, the new accessible ramp that goes up the entire walkway. It really looks sharp. And, credit to our parents for getting used to the vestibule, kind of check in, knowing exactly where the door is. We don't have a big sign like the high school door 44, but it's pretty easy once the people come up and really kind of get the hang of it. Also kudos to our staff who have been, manning that area and making sure that people are checking in appropriately. It's really user-friendly, and it's, again, a much-needed security measure for our school. And even within the lobby, the whole area was cleaned and painted over the summer. The floor was cleaned very well. The walls were painted. The stairs, which were maroon before, are now like a gray color. The entire place is just so much brighter and more inviting, quite honestly. So we're really excited about that, and it just looks great. And we went a few days with no front doors, but everyone rolled with it, and it was a little chilly, but everyone dealt with it, and then here we are with a brand-new front of the school, and it looks great. So it was well worth the wait. And then as far as a few staff additions, so Officer Lindstad is a new SRO this year. He's been on the police force for several years, but he's new to us. Officer Rokas, who transferred up to the high school, so David Lindstad took over for her. If you haven't seen him yet, when you come into the building, you will not miss him because he's 6'8", and which is not a bad presence to have in a middle school. So, but he's just a great young guy, and he's been doing a good job interacting with the kids and things. So we're excited about that. We've had a lot of new teachers we've hired this year in a few of our core subject areas, some special educators, some of our para-educators, and even aides in the lunchroom. So, again, with the staffs coming together, we really have been able to continue to bring in new teammates who have been great additions to the school. So we're very excited to have that continue. But within, these new programs and staff coming, one of the ones that we're most excited about, and that's why we asked Mrs. Gannon to come and talk to us tonight. So I was fortunate to work with Julia over at Parker for a few years when she was hired as a social worker. And once we had the opportunity, we didn't steal her back, but it just worked out for us that she was able to come into this new position. So this new program, and again, having Julia join our team has been awesome. So she's going to talk to us a little bit about the STEP program at McCarthy.
So the STEP program has been at the high school for at least 10 years at this point. It's modeled after what's called the BRIGHT program, which had started at Brookline High School in 2003. And that was a combination with Brookline High School and the Brookline Community Health Center. And it was responding to a need of students who were having long absences, mostly due to mental health, but also could be physical health, and then trying to return to school and really struggling to get back into the school building and the school day. So in general, this program services sort of two types of students now. So we support students who are coming back to school after an extended absence, again, due to mental or physical health. It could be a hospitalization, it could be a surgery, it could be a concussion or an illness. And then the other type of students we support are those who are sort of in a general crisis. So it could be attendance challenges, academic challenges, mental health. Usually it's a combination of all of those. And so the counselors are the ones typically that refer a student. They let me know about that. And we enter the student into the program, and we start supporting them. We reach out to their families as well and have a meeting about that. One of the best things about the STEP program is that it's open, the classroom is open all day, every single day. So unlike the school counselors who are so busy all day long trying to see every single student on their caseload or those high hitters, we are able to support our students all day long. So whether it's they come in the morning and they need support right away, or they're coming in the middle of the day, or they're going to some classes but then not able to go to some other ones, we're always available. So we're always there for them. And with each student, we're creating a very flexible, very individual plan. So a student might come in one day and be able to go to every single class. A student might come in the next day and only be able to go to one class or two classes, or only be able to go to lunch. And so each day, we're just sort of trying to figure out what exactly is going to work for that student. Typically, students are using the program. It's meant to be short-term, temporary, so they're typically using it for anywhere from about 4 to 12 weeks. Again, some students might use it for less time, some students might use it for a longer time, but we're hoping with each student to get to a point of exiting them, and at that point, that would mean that they're no longer needing to use the STEP program because they're going to all of their classes, they're coming in regularly for school, they're mostly or all caught up with their missing work, and at that point, we would determine that they're able to exit from STEP. In terms of the staff within the room, so I'm the counselor there, and then we also are very lucky to have a full-time intern, Courtney Morgan, through the Merrimack Fellowship, and that's been an amazing support for our students as well, and she's there every single day for the whole day, which is amazing. And so McCarthy, specifically this program, so far we've already been able to support, actually, the slide says 8, but we actually have one more this week, so 9 since September. And that's been amazing with it being a brand-new program, and we're not even halfway through the year. And just to give a little perspective to that, so the high school has had their program again for over 10 years, and they're right around 14 students for the year. So just kind of giving a little perspective to that number of 9. So this slide just kind of, really explains exactly how we're supporting every single student. So we're supporting them completely with their academics, with their social emotional, working with families, whether it's for outside supports for outside counseling or any sort of programs that the student might need outside of school, whether it's a hospitalization type of program. We're working with staff all day long in terms of catching students up with assignments, letting staff know if a student is not going to make it to class, what the plan is for the day. We're working with students sometimes on actually completing the classwork. So a student who is in our room and is just totally struggling even with starting an assignment, we might be sitting down with them and starting the assignment. And we're providing regular counseling. I typically meet with every student at least once a week for counseling, but often it ends up being more than that for whatever types of needs they might have. And we're reaching out to families. Again, it depends on the student. It could be some families it's every single day we're talking with their family. Other students it might be just once a week, kind of a touching base with the family. But it's sort of a fully wraparound type of support system. We're also collaborating all the time with the counselors and the psychologists because once a student does exit from the program, we're making sure that they do have some sort of support system within the school who would then be their main person that they would be going to once they exit from STEP. And that's really it.
So this next picture, as I introduce our student reps who are going to be talking to us tonight, the picture on the left is Addie, and she worked on this art project. This was one of the kind of first things we did 2 summers ago when I went to McCarthy. When you walk down the hallway towards the cafeteria, which everybody does throughout the course of the day, there's this bright, beautiful mural now that Addie really kind of ran the group. So the other 2 students, Amelia and Isla, helped her, but Addie was really the driving force behind getting that done. She did a wonderful job. And then the picture on the right is Emma from one of the conferences that you'll hear a little bit about, where over 300 middle school students from all over New England, and they needed a volunteer, and Emma had the courage to go up and facilitate a game in front of all of these people. So it kind of gives you a little bit of how talented and brave and confident the students are, and we wanted to bring these 2 to have them share some ideas with you tonight.
Hi, thank you for having Emma and I. We can't wait to tell you about McCarthy Leadership. McCarthy Student Leadership is a group of students selected by McCarthy teachers or nominated by previous 8th grade student leaders. We have meetings every few weeks to talk about fun activities for our school or things we should change. We also go on trips to help us become better student leaders.
All right, so to talk about the trips, part of student leadership is attending leadership workshops. So we've been to 3 over the course of 2 years. We went to 1 last year, kind of just like to introduce us about like being in the group and like what it means to be a leader. And then this year we went to one at SNHU.
Yeah, we went to one at SNHU, which was a lot of fun. We learned a lot and we met a lot of new people. And we also had a talk with Mrs. McKinnon, and she taught us what it's like to kind of be in here. And yeah, so it was a strategy meeting. I just read. So we learn a ton, and thanks to Dr. Parks, we've gotten to do all this fun stuff. So yeah.
So another aspect of being a student leader is giving tours. So we do guided tours for upcoming seventh graders and show them where their classes are. And we also tell them how the school is structured and where they need to go to get to their grade level or to their specialists. We also pass out schedules and walk around the school helping parents during school orientation. And it's a stack of papers just with names, and you have to flip through the names, hand out the paper, and then a lot of people don't really know where they're going, so you have to walk them to their class and then do it all again.
All right, another big thing that we help out with is Project 300. So normally in the January or early winter type area, we do a huge can drive called Project 300, and we ask McCarthy students and teachers to donate as many cans as they can, and then we take these cans and we bring them to the Salvation Army. And it's run by one of our 8th grade teachers, Mr. Gallagher, and we play a big part in it because not only do we carry the cans everywhere, but we also try and get the school excited about it and make them want to donate cans. We also do get to skip classes to take the cans around, but that's not. Yeah. But that's not important. The important thing is that we're helping people, which is really what we like to do as student leaders.
So our group has meetings typically at 7:30 on Thursdays. And we meet every few weeks to plan fun activities for our schools. School. We also discuss things in our school that we can improve or issues that are going on.
Yeah. For example, our field day this year, it had to go a little bit different than it has in the past because of the double amount of kids. So it turned into a week-long Olympic event where there wasn't just physical events, there were also mental events, and the Knowledge Bowl was a big hit because it pulled another group of students that normally wouldn't participate in physical challenges. And we've also brainstormed ideas for all of those activities and spirit weeks. Another thing we do are pep rallies, where we get everybody in the gym, minute to win it and ultimate volleyball, like they said. And it's just a lot of fun. It brings our school together, and it makes us feel proud that we're having an impact on our school. And yeah, that's really it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
This last image is all the students who attended that conference with 4 of our staff members as well. So thank you again for having us, but we'd love to, entertain any questions that you might have.
John?
I would love to hear more about the tours. What can we hear about the tours that you guys get? What's the craziest thing that's happened on a tour? Is it for the kids? Is it for parents? Who are the tours for?
Typically, parents are the only ones that go to the tours. Students are typically at home.
Yeah.
But the craziest thing was probably when we'd have the same parent coming up to us asking where the class was, the one class was over and over again when we walked them down there and walked them back again.
It was
and again.
definitely a dad. All right, that's cool. No, thank you for doing the work, and school leadership's really important, and the fact you have an opportunity to help your classmates and to give back to the whole community that you've gone to school with all these years is really important, so thank you.
Anybody else? Maria?
Go ahead. You had your hand first.
I had told this body about when you came to have the meeting here, the rest of people here. I'm on the town's strategic plan steering committee, and we were just trying to gather input from any residents in town about things the town does well, things the town needs to work harder on, all kinds of ideas about how the town runs. And I talked to the kids about kind of how the government of our town works and how their input was going to fit in with what we're trying to do. And I was so impressed with the maturity, with the integrity, and how they tackled the discussion, and really hit upon the same kinds of things the adults in the community were hitting upon, and that you recognize what the needs and the challenges in town are, and were able to articulate where you wanted the town to go, and it was just so helpful, and I was really, really impressed. I want all of you to know that, as I said to this group, the future is bright. I really felt that you've got a great team of students here who really are ready to be leaders.
And I really appreciated when you reached out to see if we could get some 8th graders to do it, because it shows like some confidence in this age group, right? And clearly like a high school would be a natural fit, but to tie in, some 13 and 14-year-olds and ask them what their opinion was, and I think they appreciated it. We had a nice walk over. We stopped at the Veterans Park and talked about what that is for a little bit. It was just kind of a cool field trip, but the work that they were doing, I agree with you, was pretty impressive. All the different small groups, they were into it, and they gave good feedback, and they were focused, which was great.
So next month, the group we're working with is going to be kind of ready to compile what this strategic plan is gonna look like, and I'd love to come to one of your meetings. I can come during the school day and let you know what this is gonna look like for the town, just to kind of see where all your feedback went. I'd love to come to
that'd be
talk to you
great.
guys. That would be cool.
We'll take you up on that.
Question about the STEP program. So you mentioned some numbers. I think 14 students are participating this year, right?
At the high school.
At the high school.
Yeah, and then we've had 9 so far this year.
And you've had 9. How about, this is the first year we have this full program at McCarthy?
Yes.
You really don't have a sense of comparison yet?
From year to year,
See,
no.
from
Yeah.
year to year. How about at the high school? Do you know what those numbers are? Is it?
They do, and I think that when I had met with them a couple weeks ago, they said they were right around where they were last year.
The same number.
I'm not sure. They would have the exact data because they're really good at keeping that information. And I think sometimes it can range a little bit year to year, but I think in general, they've had around the same numbers every single year.
Well, I think it's an incredible program because it is so important to keep folks going and really committed to, continuing with their schooling and being engaged. Then by the same token, congratulations to the students. It's really wonderful to see the leadership. Good for you too, each one of you individually, wow. And I'm looking at Colleen's daughter here, wow.
Hi,
This
Colleen.
is- Because I remember when you were very little, and it's really, really wonderful to see what you're doing now as students at this age, and then what you'll be able to do as you move forward, which is really wonderful.
Can I follow up on Maria's question? So are the 9 students currently enrolled, or have you had 9 over the year? Have you ever had people transition out and not have to return?
So it's been 9 as of the start of the year. So currently we have 6.
Okay.
We've had 3 that transitioned
Great,
out. And
that's
we have
awesome.
2 more that are on the path to transition out by the end of January.
That's great, thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead, please. So another thing that this does is it ensures that those students who need the additional support get it, and it takes a little bit of relief, or gives a little bit of relief to our other 3 counselors who have massive caseloads, right? So they're not only responsible for, their portion of the alphabet, which is how we have it divided up, in addition to these students who, really struggling to come in and those type of things. So it gives Julia the ability to focus on the students who need a tremendous amount of support while the counselors can manage their daily caseloads. So it provides a lot of relief in that way too.
I have 2 things. One is around the STEP program. Thank you for speaking about it. It sounds really great. I love the case management program. I'm curious so you mentioned some of the student populations whose needs it's meeting. Is it targeting potentially like SLIFE students who have unstable housing environments, who might experience homelessness as well, or is that not as?
So it could include those students, but it's not necessarily specifically focusing on those students. However, if there was a student in a situation where, in addition to being homeless, they were also having trouble getting to school every day, their grades were really poor, they were struggling with their mental health, that could be a contributing factor. The homelessness could be a factor that would contribute to these other things that would then impact their eligibility for STEP.
Specifically targeting them.
Exactly.
Do you have, like, what do you see as the capacity of the program? So right now you have 6 students. Over the course of the year, there have been 9. What do you see as, like, the sweet spot or the target?
So I believe at the high school, and they have a full-time counselor and a full-time teacher within their program. I believe they said their sweet spot is 15. And that means that they're able to meet the entire needs of those students. So I would say, we have 6 right now. I would think maybe like 10-ish would be like totally ideal, where we could really, right, exactly, where we could really meet, make sure that we're meeting those students' needs while also serving as many students as possible. I know they've had more than the 15, and that's been really overwhelming up at the high school, where they've kind of felt like they're not actually completely meeting the needs of all of those students. It also depends a little bit on the student, like the population of the students, because we might have a student who's taking up our entire day, right? Whereas there might be another student who's only using us to get into the building, and then once they're in the building, they're pretty set for the rest of the day. So it kind of depends too on that piece of it.
Thank you. I also have a question for the 2 students joining us. You're both in 8th, right?
Yes.
So you will be the first class to have sort of all been at McCarthy for 7th and 8th grade. And I imagine in your role as student leaders, you're talking to a lot of your peers all the time. So I'm curious, what do you hear generally, or you could just talk about your own feelings about how the transition has gone to all being under one roof across the whole town?
We've definitely heard like a lot of positives, definitely being able to like reunite with some people, like, because I know a lot of people play sports, and with the 2 different schools, it's kind of hard to like talk really about like what's happening at your school, because 2 different things are happening at the different times. So definitely being able to like all be on the same page is definitely a big plus to having the schools combined. Making friends, bringing everybody together is also a big thing that people have enjoyed. But yeah.
So I did 5 and 6 at Parker, and then I switched 7 and 8 to McCarthy. And I really liked it because I did meet a lot of people through like basketball and stuff, some of them being like Emma. And it was really nice to like actually like have classes with those people and like actually be seeing them throughout the week and not just on weekends and stuff like that.
Thank you.
In the same vein, I was thinking of that in terms of, this is your 2nd year, with the 7th and 8th graders. And this, what you discussed about having the small school feel, is that something that you wanted to do because you saw the need for it at this particular age level? Or is there a correlation between the 2?
So last year, we had, 4 different teams. But the way it was structured is that within each team, the students could have had any combination. So there were 2 math, 2 science, 2 ELA, et cetera. And the kids could have any combination of those teachers, which was good for the flexibility to bring the students together. We had a bigger team, so the teachers were kind of out of that just 4 or 5 team feel, and they were, essentially automatically networking with people from the other building. And that was the goal, right out of the gate. And then throughout last year, gathering some feedback and really looking at it from the counselor standpoint and from the standpoint of some kids just, potentially getting lost in the shuffle because they didn't have the same teachers looking after them, that we wanted to shift and do that intentionally. It allows the counselors to have a little more focused meetings where they can go and meet with 5 teachers and they know they're all talking about the same kids, whereas before, there were 10 teachers and only half of them had the student they were worried about or talking about or supporting or whatever the case was. So it does within the cohorts, and I'm, you 2 could feel free to kind of let me know what you think about it as well. But within the cohorts, it does give us a little bit of an opportunity to keep better track of student progress, academically, emotionally, socially, you name it.
Well, one of the strategic plan's goals is definitely to see greater connection between adults in the buildings and in each student, and to track that and to make sure that there is relationships being built.
Right.
So this seems to be part of that and work towards that end, which is
That's right.
great. Do you guys feel that it is a better way? You see people more?
I like it because last year it was kind of like a hassle to find people that you shared a teacher with to like have if you like need help on assignment. But like this year, I know like the people if I have math with someone, I know that all my other subjects we share the same teacher. So I know that if I'm like struggling on an assignment, they can like help me. Like I know that I can just like they're in one of my classes, they have all my classes, like that type of thing.
That's good.
I feel like I can more like bond with my teachers more instead of having to worry about bouncing between like different teachers. I just feel like that there's more of like a close knit type of thing that like they're all like kind of in like the same like general like area and like they all have the same people. Like also kind of what Addie said. It's easier to find people that can help me and that I can like connect with like academically, which is probably which is a big thing because last year it was kind of hard to do that.
Yeah, that transition from 6th to 7th grade in the academics is not that easy. So maybe this makes it a bit better. Glad to see this, so thank you.
In addition, it's also helping a cohort of students that are new to Chelmsford Public Schools for the very first time, that have never attended any of the 4 elementaries or went to Parker for 5, 6. So that localization of the staff teaming has certainly helped with new students to Chelmsford. Also, students that come in after the school year has started. And that's a very, very hard transition, because remember, we're 7th and 8th, and especially for 8th grade year. And we seem to have a cohort of kids that have come in 8th grade. So to welcome them into the district, into the school, and then just have them, we want the transition to be as smooth as possible for these students. And that is something that we were able to gain by reteaming and structuring the way that we have.
So it also helps the more transitory populations like the EL students and so on.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Really fantastic, great.
Great. Anybody else?
One more thing.
Go ahead.
I have a question about, that's kind of nuts and bolts question about the STEP program. You said you don't have a dedicated teacher. Right. So, I mean, for those kids who really just can't manage going to class, how do you provide their direct instruction? And do you foresee the need to have a full-time teacher?
So the teachers are really good about posting. I would say almost every teacher is posting an agenda every day of what they're doing in the class on Google Classroom, and they're posting whether it's a video or a reading or an assignment, everything. Again, for almost every teacher is posted there. So typically, if a student is not going to a class, I'll call down or I'll go down to the teacher and I'll let them know the student is not going to your class today. What can they work on during that class time? So that at least keeps the student doing the work. The actual teaching of it, I've learned a lot of math this year. I've done a lot of Googling of how to do different types of math. But yeah, I would say that is a challenge at times for students. If they are missing, say, a week of math class, making sure that they're still learning the material can be difficult. I think in terms of adding a staff member, that's not up to me, but potentially. I think it depends on numbers and sort of what the need ends up being.
I think the high school started in a similar way, where they
Yeah.
had a lead counselor or a lead social worker and then a para who was assigned to them, similar to how we're kind of structuring it now. And then over time, they grew. So I think we just need to watch and see how this program continues to develop. But it's clear that there was a need for it, so we're happy that was supported. It's very important for the school.
And I've had teachers during their prep periods come down to work with students individually to catch them up on a math concept or an ELA thing. So I do work really closely with the teachers, or I'll send the student down to their class during the prep time. So we make it work. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Great. Well, thank you all for coming. That was great information.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay.
Enjoy.
Yeah, I do have to say, the week or two leading up to the holidays, it's one thing after another after another.
It is.
And I know Susan mentioned earlier the bands, if you miss them, they're all posted online because I've seen a couple of them just play, so the kids are doing a great job. But thank you, everyone, for presenting tonight. Good
Happy
to see you.
holidays.
Have a good holiday.
Good vacation.
Enjoy your 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
I'll see you soon.
Yes, I'm in the school union, just Giulio.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Good night. Happy holidays.
Yeah, if you could just forward that.
We good?
Yep.
All right. Moving on to the second item on the agenda tonight, I'm going to welcome Chris Haley, who is the Sustainability Manager or Coordinator Manager for the town's DPW Department. And he has some information to share with us regarding electric vehicle policies and a decarbonization roadmap that the town is working on that has implications townwide, but obviously also on schools as well. And some of the different programs that they've been working on potentially open up different funding sources and things like that in the years to come. So Chris has some information in your packet tonight. He's here just to kind of walk us through a little bit, and I will turn it over to Chris.
All right. So the first thing we'll go over is the EV First policy. It's pretty straightforward. It goes off of our current policy already that the town has, which is just it's more fuel efficient first kind of policy. So it's changing that, a little bit more detail. Requirements for this program, which is called the Climate Leader Program. Now, this program is a step 2 from the green communities that most of every town in Massachusetts is already part of. Gives us access to a ton of funding. That pool has shrunk very small because every town is now on or is a green community. And so funding is just not there. Little projects here, 50,000, 100,000. The Climate Leader Program, which is what we're trying to get to, is $60 million in grants. And the pool right now is 8. Not including us if we do happen to get into it by the deadline of December 31st. So the EV First policy is one step, doesn't really affect the schools too much. There's only 2 vehicles currently that it affects, both under 7,500 pounds, because this is only light-duty vehicles. Buses are included, trucks are included, small SUVs, cars is about all it does. Doesn't really affect you guys too much, but it is a requirement for the Climate Leader Program.
Well, just on the vehicle piece, when I looked at that and I even looked at the roadmap.
Yeah.
There were 4 vehicles that were identified by the school department. The school department doesn't have a ton of vehicles, but there were 4 that were originally identified for when they do get replaced to look at electric alternatives first and go down this kind of hierarchy.
Yeah, it's a step process, yeah.
The 2 buses that are on there, number one, are over the weight limit, so they actually wouldn't fall under the lightweight policy. And, at the time when they're going to be replaced, if there was ever an electric equivalent or hybrid or whatnot, it certainly could be looked at. But those 2 really don't fall under the policy. The only 2 of our vehicles that do is we have a facility truck and a food service truck that just travel around the town doing different things. So under this policy, if and when those were to be replaced, the requirement would be that we look to try to do something, again, electric first.
Yeah, it's electric first, it is plug-in hybrid next, regular hybrid after that, and then a alternative fuel vehicle before you head back to a combustion engine.
And can you just touch on, because I know you mentioned to me, but it is like cost effectiveness can come into play.
Oh, absolutely.
And also like ability, because some of this stuff I assume is going to take some build out, so.
Correct.
even
There's
access-
a couple things in factor for you guys. One is if, it comes up, you're gonna replace it, cost is definitely up there. It has to be cost effective for you. Yes, this program will allow grants to help with that. And probably make it cheaper than a gas alternative. Second, it is, gonna be something where you guys have to worry about charging your vehicles. You don't have a huge network at the schools. So that would be something that has to take into play. And if you don't have a network in place at the time, it doesn't make sense to have that. And it's got to be able to do what you need. It needs to be able to go a certain time and distance. And if it needs to travel a lot for something, like those are all factors that can play into that. Yeah, it is not something you set in stone. It's just that you look at it first.
So it's sort of a decision-making protocol of sorts
Yep.
that prioritizes electric vehicles.
Correct.
Are we gonna talk about EV chargers in the town too?
We can, yeah, if you want to.
I'm just curious, well, I know there's a lot of these, federal rebates are probably gonna end pretty soon, right?
So I'm way ahead of it.
Yeah, I figured.
I got approved for $2.4 million of superchargers. You'll
Good,
see
good.
them. I'm in the middle of it now.
Awesome.
It's just in National Grid's hands, which is,
A whole, yeah, I'm a homeowner, I understand
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But no, that's great to hear. I am hoping to just see more EV chargers out there.
Yep.
I know there's some at the high school, and I've used them
Yes.
there. They're really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're out there, but
We have
the more the
level,
better.
we have level 2s. I have 2 superchargers at the forum right now.
Yep.
The 2.4 million I got is 5 locations, 6 superchargers each. So we'll have plenty of network here in town for residents to use. Stuff for the schools would probably be fleet focused and only fleet.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
I have an EV now, so I'm a big fan.
Okay, good.
It's actually changed my life. Like, it's really much different when you
Yeah.
have an EV, and like, I'm super glad we're supporting it. I think the carbon impact of those cars is just much lower. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, and that's the part of this Climate Leader program, yeah.
Not necessarily part of this presentation, I'm more just curious.
Mm-hmm.
So like, when town departments even adopt the electric vehicles and things like that?
Yeah.
Is there a different charging scenario for them? Like, will we eventually get to some point where we would have like a charging station, say, at the school department or at McCarthy or something like that, where you would be able to charge the vehicles? Or how do individual town departments do that now?
So right now, everything that we have, because the grants have focused on public charging and infrastructure,
Yeah.
all the things we have are shared units. So everyone, public and fleet, use the same chargers and share it. So everyone has access to them in town. Right now, DPW has a handful. We have 4 currently electric vehicles at DPW. They use the charging stations that we have there, level 2, public access to. So it hasn't been a point where they have issues getting charged.
Yeah.
But they're only going around town, so they never really have an issue.
Those type of stations eventually going to be like added in more locations around town?
Right. So that's what I'm doing with the superchargers because they're faster, and a lot of people just charge at home. Yeah. Honestly, the public charge at home, but when they're out on the route on the weekends, the fast chargers are just so much used. My superchargers that we do have currently are occupied almost 24/7 on the weekends. Yeah.
Again, just out of curiosity, how quick does a car charge on a supercharger or whatever?
It will depend on if the vehicle can accept it, the rate in which the vehicle can accept speed, but anywhere really from 25 to 45 minutes
Oh, really?
to like 80%, which is recommended to be up there.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a book in my car.
Yeah. So it all
Do you have a
depends.
charger at home?
I do, I charge at home too. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, thanks.
Yeah, of course, no, yeah.
But most people at home don't have like the super speed.
No, I understand
No,
that.
but
yeah.
most of the time you're parked, right?
And
So
at
you
night
have
it's
it.
charged.
Yeah. it's-
Park overnight, yeah.
Any questions regarding the EV first policy, if you guys had a chance to look?
I love it. I think it's a great policy. I don't have any questions. No notes. Thanks for securing the money too.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I looked at the policy at home. I don't have any questions.
I mean, I guess my concern is if you're asking us to approve a policy tonight, I don't know if that is something we could do in a one-night session. Normally, if we have a policy that we want to look at, we take some time, look at the policy, talk to MASC, which is our governing body, have our lawyer look it over, just to make sure, and I don't think there's anything controversial in it, but just our procedure is not normally to just take one look at a policy, say, thumbs up, thumbs down. So,
Sure.
I definitely think it's something we could consider, but I don't know if we'll be able to act on it tonight.
Yeah, so this just needs to be done by December 31st to get access.
Another meeting?
Yeah,
We don't currently have another meeting.
I understand that. Yep. And I do know the select board meeting is on the 23rd. And they are going to have this on their agenda as well. This will be their second time after they had some wording they want to change.
Right, that's, I
And
guess the
the
point.
chances are they'll approve that.
So they've had a time to look at it and ask for some wording, and is the wording even in the policy you have in front of us, or we don't know what the wording is yet?
Oh, yeah, the policy for you guys is complete.
Well, no, but they're
Oh, no,
asking
that
for-
wording is different, no.
Okay, so that's what I mean, like, I
It's
think we
it's a
need,
different policy, minor changes for you guys specifically. The other ones have police and fire and some other specific
so I
stuff.
guess that's my concern, is whether there's something we want to do and, a first look at something like this, so.
So within this document is the actual wording of the policy itself?
You're looking at the roadmap.
Yeah, it's at the end, towards the end.
Towards the
The
end.
policy is on.
I think it's the last 2 pages.
Page 33, 55, if you're looking at it.
Given the timeline, though, I mean, they're extraordinary, I don't know if this is extraordinary, like, and nothing is on fire, but we don't, if we don't have another meeting, maybe it makes sense to talk about it today. I don't know. If the town needs it by the 31st, the town needs it, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're just gonna miss out in the first round of funding, right? You can still
But you
reapply.
do want to wait till.
Right, so what happens is we'd have to reply at the end of June. At that point in time, a lot of other towns will be adopted, and because it is a very competitive program, right now, we have a very high chance to succeed with these grants. If we wait, our chance is drastically reduced.
I really say we could, I think we could come out of our shell here and talk about it.
We could discuss,
I would like to discuss it, even if it meant postponing a vote to do something asynchronously or not asynchronously, but remotely or something, but I would hate to have I wish we had gotten this earlier, but I would hate to have our lack of approval be the one thing that stops
Yeah, I
us
don't
from
want-
being able to be in a less competitive pool that could potentially open up a lot of funds.
Given
and
it, considering
opportunities.
some of the things we're dealing with next year too, like money is always good to come into
Okay,
this.
so then I guess my next point, so is there anything else you're gonna ask us to approve tonight?
That would be the decarbonization
So-
roadmap.
And that's, I guess, where my concern would be, that there's a lot more to this than just this policy on EV, and I think that that's a much deeper topic that we need to really look at. I don't know if that's something we can do, over the, with a Christmas holiday coming up. I think this is definitely gonna be something we're gonna have to spend some time on, and I guess that's my concern, The EV policy, I get it, we have 2 cars, it's not a big deal, but if we're looking at that bigger picture of, if you have a building, we gotta try to do this and this and this, and there's a lot of things that could impact funding, of projects and future projects. We have a building coming up
And
online.
I can speak to this roadmap is a lot more, it looks a lot more than it actually is. So I can explain what the intention behind this and what adopting it actually means for the school.
Yeah, let's do that. That's a good idea.
So if you guys are ready to move on that, and don't have any other questions for the policy, I can certainly speak to that.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, you guys good then?
Yeah, I'd like to hear about it,
Yeah,
but
okay.
again, my concern is there's a lot to digest, and
Sure.
I don't know if we have the time to do that, but.
So this roadmap is all it is. It is a guideline how to get to net zero by 2050. It is only a guideline that we do not have to follow. We do not have to get the things on this list. It is in good faith that we consider the options when we are going to replace certain things, roofs, solar panels, boilers, anything that has any sort of fossil fuel that can be replaced with something non-fossil fuel or full electric in this case. It gives us guidelines. This thing has to be updated every 3 years by myself when new technology changes, when we do projects. Even if it requires me to replace a gas with another gas on that list, that is what it is. And it is something that we're gonna have to go out to bid for everything anyway. We're gonna have to find out if it's competitive when we go out to bid for the price differences. And that if we do have access to this Climate Leader program and we're budgeting out for the future, I would apply for grants using that to find out if reducing the cost of the full electric stuff is feasible with the grants. There's no commitment at all regarding either of these policies financially. These are just, one's a guideline and others best practices.
So this is ultimately the question I have is, I didn't see that there was a cost to us in this policy.
There isn't.
So all we're doing is we're accepting, and I agree with you, Dennis, I do think that this is extensive. It was a lot of reading to do in, a very short period of time and to understand what the whole concept is here.
This would have been back to us sooner if we had it. It took a while to create this.
To get it. And I'm not blaming anyone, I'm just saying that I think in the end of it, after I got through it, was to think that really truly it doesn't appear to have a cost that we are voting on for us, but it might have a big benefit in terms of getting, us to another level.
Correct.
And we're the schools, which essentially, this is why I would like this, because I'd like my children and grandchildren to live. And, this decarbonization is an important thing. So I felt that, even though I agree 100%, it's not something I would like to do, just immediately vote on something that's just thrown in front of me. I just think in the end, because it doesn't have that cost impact to us and does have the benefit and has this deadline and we don't meet again, I'm leaning more towards going with an acceptance of it.
I'm on the same boat.
I feel the same.
Okay.
Can I, just a couple? Of course. When I read the decarbonization map, like, 3 of the buildings, the big buildings that come up with the high school, Parker, McCarthy. So one of the questions I had for Chris was, let's just say the McCarthy, because the capital committee just approved new boilers for the school, right? $600,000 to $700,000, something like that, to replace, but like boilers. So we have natural gas boilers now, so we'd be putting natural gas boilers in. I said, can you kind of walk me through what we would have to do? Because there was verbiage in the plan that basically talked about wells and like alternate fuels and things. But like, can you just use that as an example of like,
Sure, yeah, so
under the
with-
plan, what the expectation would be, what it really means?
Yeah, so with what we got going already, that's all been approved and you're already going forward with those projects, correct?
Yeah.
Right, you guys are
Well,
in,
we're going to town meeting in April.
correct.
And then if that gets approved, then yes, then it would go forward.
Right, and then they'll go through that basis. I mean, same thing, you're gonna send out quotes, you're just gonna ask for additional quote for, for a full electric changeover. You can't really do geothermal with the existing buildings, it's just, it'll never be cost effective unless you're doing a brand new building. It's too expensive, but there's other things you can electrify. There's
doing that.
There's, stuff in other stuff, but the boilers itself, it'll have to come, but it will not affect that project.
So it just adds potentially a step to the process of explicit.
You just ask for for the quotes, you just ask for natural gas and ask for electric option.
Yeah, it sounds like, you said, it's good faith. You have to look at it.
Yeah.
And then we would go back to you and say, hey, this is
too
geothermal option. Is this affordable?
too expensive, yeah. And you
It's
go
too
from there.
expensive, but maybe there's a grant.
Right, I was gonna say, the things that look too expensive on paper now may become affordable if there's
Right.
explicit grants that explicitly could support
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Let's say, as we're looking at a new school project where it might be something we could consider.
I guess that's a concern. We are looking at a new school project.
Yeah. So it's not, I mean,
But
if-
it's still not committing to the way in which we would spend, it's just committing to a process.
You may have groups come in and say, listen, you said you're gonna do this.
I mean, that's gonna always happen anyway.
I think we do it. I
We're,
think we
we're
do
gonna have,
include
Clean
those
Energy Group will
quotes.
probably have comments on something like that specifically, where they ask why wasn't it considered, but if we have it considered with all of our details on pricing and can explain that, that's what it's there for.
Questions? Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
So now I lost the question, you go. I forgot the question.
That was quick.
No, I had a question, I forgot it.
So
Go ahead.
I'd like to understand the concern, though. Your concern is that with the new building projects, okay, we are going to have to do we have to commit to okay, so let's say something comes back and you say, it costs 50,000 and we have another thing that costs 25,000 and ours takes 2 days to get going and yours takes 100 days to get going, and we choose ours. Does this put us stuck on any choice, any particular
I mean, it's gonna be the normal procurement rules and stuff you're gonna go
followed?
with.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing's gonna change. You're just looking at adding an option. Instead of just going out and you're bidding a design scope of a project and you're like, I want a direct replacement of this. You're gonna say, I want a direct replacement of this, and I also want its electric alternative. And there's a lot of steps to get full electric. That's not just getting an electric boiler. You have to make sure the network in here, you gotta have studies, an engineering background on it. You gotta make sure that your switchgear can handle the load there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
That has to be considered, and that's just a step in the process.
So it's just a step that we would have to explicitly ask for those alternative options
Yep.
to be laid out for us. It
And
doesn't
then-
mean we would be required to select.
Correct, and then the grant itself you look at options within the grants, with the different programs they have and where it can be used, and I'm gonna submit it and see if they're how much they would give us for it. And if it ends up helping with that project, great. If it doesn't, then we go with,
Okay, but
Placement
we
plan.
have to ask for the alternative once we adopt this guideline.
when the.
good faith.
Yes, in the DPW, we will put that in there as, we'd like a quote for that as well.
It doesn't cost a lot to get a quote.
No, there won't be additional
Not
costs.
sure I got that
Yeah,
answer.
I guess we're committing to a program. We're saying, okay, we're in this program, this is what and now we go to the line and we say, no, we're not gonna do that electric, we're not gonna do that one, because it's not, I don't know, I just, that's where I'm uncomfortable with it. I'm just uncomfortable with, like,
Yeah.
You know, we're saying, yes, we're part of this program and we're gonna commit to doing this stuff, but then, you know, we want money, give us that grant money. Oh, by the way, we're not gonna do any of this stuff. Well, let's take the grant money away. I don't know.
We still have to apply for the grant stuff.
I know, I'm
You
just,
know, it's,
I'm just saying, I don't know, I'm not.
Nothing's a
Lot to
guarantee.
digest and I'm not comfortable doing it.
I don't, so, a quick question I had though, is, so we're doing MSBA processes on roofs, on schools and all these other things. Matt, MSBA and these other building projects must be looking at they must have their own set of rules around, you know, about,
procurement of the project?
not procurement, but they must have their own environmental standards that they have to apply to their projects, right? Wouldn't those kind of coincide with what the state's goals are? Probably not, actually. but-
I don't know enough to speak about it. yeah.
What they do is they sometimes give you, like, in the point scheme, like when you get to schematic design and you're weighing your
Yeah.
options, sometimes you'll get like a bonus points almost, or like additional percentage if you do something that's maybe gonna be clean. Like, I haven't gotten to that
Okay,
level yet, because
okay.
we're not there yet. But what you'd have to do is go through the whole process to figure out, you know, what would a traditional gas system look like in this? I assume, like, you know, if we are doing the new school, someone is gonna bring up geothermal, like, what would that actually cost? And, you know, is the cost that much, can it be negated by a grant?
Yeah, no, that makes
If it can't, you know, what is the payoff if you do it? Ultimately, it's gonna come down to the town needing to vote to support something.
Yep.
You know, it is gonna muddy the waters a little bit as far as having like alternate ways of looking at things. That would be my only concern. I mean, one thing that the committee could do, just as something to think about, like, obviously, this deserves, I think, more discussion and attention to things. The select board, date was presented to them, you made some revisions, it's going back to them next week.
With the EV first policy, they're seeing, that you're actually seeing the decarbonization roadmap before they are.
Okay.
So they haven't even seen this part of it.
It's
They have to
literally just,
approve it
it just
Monday
came
night,
out. Yeah.
sight unseen?
Well, no, they've seen it before, and I've talked to them and I've spoke with them. Like, I just sent it to them today, but I have spoke with them already about the expectations, what it actually means for commitments for the town. And it's exactly the same for you guys. It doesn't change anything.
We do still have 2 weeks before the end of the year, and there's nothing stopping us from having a single item on an agenda, if that was the will of the committee, before December 31st to give you enough, after the select board votes, to give you enough time to do it. We could even do a remote meeting still, under the public meeting law. You could have a quick meeting after you've had time to digest this, maybe even one-on-one, ask your questions with
Absolutely, you can
Chris
reach
if
out to
people
me at
have
any point in
that.
time. Yeah.
And then bring that forward if that was the wish of the group. So you didn't have to act on it tonight. You're not totally closing the window by the 31st.
I'm okay with
I don't know,
just
that's
doing
up-
it, working on it tonight. I feel like it's 7:00. It's not like, if it's non-binding, and we've had this packet for a while, I mean, it's non-binding.
And we did something like this with the green communities. This is the same exact, when we had to do the green communities program, it's the same exact thing. This is just the next step. We had to commit to making, you know, changes towards solar panels. We had to make stuff towards electric cars. There was other stuff for the green communities that we specifically had to do, LED lights, that we had to commit to then. I think this is the first time the school is being asked to also adopt it. But this is just a step 2 of the same program that already exists.
Yeah, and I think the biggest probably, I'm not speaking for the committee, but the biggest possible concern is the new school building project, and what are the implications potentially for that? And, so again, pros, cons, signing on, not signing
This
off.
has no implications on that project. I mean, we do need to, we should, as a town, everyone, look at all options for making a new building, whether they are full EV, geothermal, just heat pumps, or, you know, back to traditional stuff, but.
I was gonna say, I would advocate, no matter what we signed or didn't sign in this process, for us considering all options for the new school. I think the advantage of signing on to this is that that could potentially open us up to potential funding to support some of those decisions that we may not get if we don't get this certification as a town.
And kind of my point is here, either we sign it or we don't get in early, right? And for
Yeah.
me, I think it's more important for the town. I don't think this is a very high-risk item. And I think for the town, it's a very high-reward item, that if we don't, I just think it makes sense to get it done now and not to start throwing, we can just work on it.
And the only other towns we'd be competing with is Arlington and Lexington.
Well, getting back to your point, you said there's no implication to the building project, but we don't know that. And, if we had another week and a half, maybe we can contact MSBA and just see, we're thinking about getting in this program, is this gonna impact, how we get funded, what we can fund, I don't, I guess that's my main thing. I like the idea, don't get me wrong. I'm all for the idea. I just think that we need to take a little bit more time to make sure we cross all our Ts and dot all our Is. That's all I'm saying.
And we have these 2 weeks, and we could do one agenda item?
Yeah, we could, we need to.
So my two concerns is a policy that's non-binding seems to me like it's not really a policy. I do worry about that a little bit, but I also understand the need to not lose the ability to get these grants. I get that. And the goal, of course, I would hope all of us would believe that eliminating fossil fuels as much as we can is a goal. But I'm also a little bit worried that there's nothing in here to include how do we deal with things that just become cost prohibitive, that we know that they are.
You just don't buy it.
Yeah, it doesn't commit.
It goes through the same
Well, that's
procurement
what it-
rules. Everything is the same, except we're saying we're gonna try really hard to put electric stuff in.
As long as that's what it really says, is that we're gonna try really
And
hard.
you don't know if it really says that until we have time to look it over.
That's what, does it
And
really
other
say
people have
that?
time to
Because
look
we,
it over. That may be a
just
lawyer
because
or
it, that's our goal.
Yeah.
We don't, if it's cost prohibitive, then we can't do it.
Then then we don't do it. Like, we wouldn't do it now, like, if it was cost prohibitive. This document has nothing to do with what we're gonna do in MSBA in 3 years.
How do you
Because we're-
know, John?
Because we're gonna look at all of the options. We're gonna look at the electric, we're gonna look at geothermal, we're gonna look at heat pumps. All those things are required to be looked at anyway. This is literally just telling us, hey, we're gonna try really hard.
But
It's a
no, it says
non-binding
more than
Okay, then
that.
we'll just, let's schedule another meeting then. Let's schedule like 5 more meetings before the end of the year. Or we could just get the work done, so this gentleman can continue doing his job. What if we don't vote on it and then the select board gets cold feet and decides not to vote
They're
yes?
good, then they took their time too.
They've had time, they've looked at it. How long you had to pack it? How long have you had to pack it?
We've had the packet for, 3 days?
Yeah, 3 days is a lot of time
Did
to
you read through the whole packet?
Yes, I read through the whole
Okay.
packet every time I come to the meeting.
We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
If there is an interest in the committee of voting tonight. we
I
can
would
have
like
a
to vote
motion.
tonight.
You could put a motion in play and we can take a vote, and we'll see where we go from there.
Well, how do you like the motions?
You could make a motion to approve the EV policy and the carbonization roadmap, or whatever it's
We
called.
would probably need to take 2 separate votes for the 2 different proposed policies.
Okay, I make a motion that we vote on the EV policy.
Any seconds?
Second.
You have a second. Any further discussion?
I would like to propose another motion.
You can't propose a motion.
We got to vote on
Gotta
this,
finish
we had
this
a motion second. So, Diana, are you for or against the policy?
I'm in favor.
Susan?
As it stands now, I'm not prepared to say yes, so I say no.
Yes.
I'm
Maria?
gonna say no.
I am also going to say no. Okay, would you like to make a second motion?
No, why would I waste my time?
I don't know, I'm just asking you a question.
You didn't prepare in the 3 days you had to read this policy? and
I
all
read
this work?
every part of it, and that's why I have my concerns.
So I'm gonna make another motion.
Yep.
I make a motion that we consider the decarbonization policy at another meeting, and we set another meeting.
We don't need a motion for that, I don't think.
You
We
can
could just decide to schedule another meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't need a motion. Is everybody comfortable with somewhere between now and the 31st, try to find a date?
I was gonna say, I would like to be able to vote at this meeting, which means the date that we select is critical.
That's right.
And
Yeah, I'd
being
like
able
We
to
can,
meet
we can come up
remotely
with a
is
date
critical.
after the meeting, we'll look at it.
I'd like to come up with a meet date now because we're coming up on vacation weeks.
No, I know, but how, can I just propose this? How about at the end of the meeting, before you leave?
Okay.
We'll poll and we'll see what available dates are, and then we can get something on the calendar.
Okay,
But we can do it after the meeting concludes. People can check their calendars and we'll figure out which day we can possibly meet.
Sounds reasonable.
Okay.
okay.
Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Great.
So did you guys say you're not adopting the EV first policy, or are you gonna come back on
You're
that
not.
one?
We did not, we
Did
voted.
not adopt it
Reconvene
tonight, we will
before the
reconvene.
end of the year.
Okay, right.
We're gonna meet again and we'll discuss then.
Sure, do you guys have any other questions regarding that I can answer now?
What's the temperature of the select board?
The temperature of the select board?
Yeah. Do you think they're gonna vote yes on it? What do you think?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain. Yeah, yeah.
They are meeting Monday evening.
Yeah, the EV first policy, they wanted one change, which was totally reasonable, which was just asking for, on that, I had something on keeping and maintaining and upgrading or continuously upgrading superchargers and other chargings, and they didn't want to commit to that because there was a financial piece to that, and we don't know what it's gonna look like in 10 years. So we took that out, and that was the only change, and they wanted to be 100% sure that DPW, fire, and police were on board, and that was it. As far as the decarbonization roadmap, I've only talked to 2 of them. The other ones I'll have phone calls with hopefully tomorrow. But again, it is just a roadmap, which is a guideline on how to get there, not a commitment to get there.
And it's okay if any of our individual members want to reach out to you
Yeah.
directly.
Yeah, you have my cell phone. You can feel free to share it. I can never remember it off the top of my head.
You sent me the final draft of this today.
I did. The
I
final
will-
draft only was some minor changes, but that
I'll
would be the one.
forward that
you
out
look
to the
at.
committee members
Yes,
after the
please.
meeting, and I'll give you Chris's number, and you can reach out to him directly with.
I don't have any questions for Chris. I voted yes.
I know, I'm just gonna
Thank you.
send you the policy, and
I
I'll
would
send
have
it
voted
out
yes
to
on the
everyone.
second one, too.
Yeah, the policy, only changes I did with the roadmap were 2 buildings that shouldn't have been on there. That came with some error with the billing. And then a number of the 2 X's on there actually was populated. So that was it.
All right,
Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Good? All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Feel free to
Chris.
reach out to me, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right, third on the agenda this evening is just a follow-up from the last meeting. I had done the student enrollment report based on the October 1 numbers, and I know Susan and Maria had a couple of follow-up questions on the L students, specifically at Center. So Linda put together a little update for you, so I'll let her share.
So yes, so when you saw the numbers from the last meeting, those were the Sims numbers. That is the specific coding that we put into Aspen. It allows us not only to obviously report to the state, but also for us to follow which students are L students. And in that report, you saw total Ls, sheltered, immersion, so that means they were receiving instruction, and then any opt-outs for each of the individual schools. So, great. There was a higher number of Ls at the Center Elementary School compared to the other elementary schools. So I met with Kelly Rogers, who is the ELL Title I and Reading Department Coordinator, and we just kind of just dug into the numbers a little bit more. So we looked specifically just at Center. I didn't do a breakdown for each school because Center was kind of the question at that point. And you'll see, though, that of the 74 Ls that are reported on that SIMS data, that 62 of them are the ones that actually receive ESL instruction. Interestingly enough, last year there was 58 of them, and we didn't even have an additional teacher. So it's interesting that we're somewhere like four students difference between last year and this year. And if you do see like a change in some of the numbers, I pulled the numbers directly that day, so it ebbs and flows. It's a fluid number. So if students opt out, move in, we may have had 20 when you saw the report, and then I report 19. So that's why you're seeing maybe like 1 or 2 student difference. So typically, we do not service students specifically with the time for L service during the day when they're in kindergarten, because it is an immersive program. We do identify those students that might have a WIDA level of 1 and grade as a kindergartner, because those are students that have no English background. So most of our kindergarten students are here with their families. They've listened to, people speaking, talking their whole entire lives. But a level 1, WIDA level 1.
What is a WIDA, by the way?
Say again?
What's a WIDA?
WIDA level, it's the level that we give them that's based on their English proficiency at that time. How much English that they've been exposed to and are able to speak, write, and
Come from the
read.
test.
That is a test.
Okay, I assumed it was, but I just wanted to make sure.
I don't know what it
Right,
stands for.
we
but
do,
it comes from the
we
test.
screen them.
Okay.
So a WIDA level 1 kindergartner means that they've had no English they may have just moved here, or they're home, nobody speaks any English, they've had no exposure to English, so that is why you'll see that. So at Center, of those 62 students that are receiving those services, there's 1 kindergartner student because they are designated as a level 1 WIDA level. So that student is receiving ESL instruction. So to alleviate some of the caseloads at the schools, we do have an additional L teacher that floats between the 4 elementary schools, but she is specifically scheduled more at Center in order to service those students and make sure that they're receiving their services at the school. There is some flexibility within our schedule, like if we had an influx of students that showed up at another school, you'll also see South Rose, climbing up there as well in terms of numbers compared to the other schools, that we could change her schedule, but that is what Kelly has been monitoring with the teachers and the principals just to make sure that we are giving students their L services during the week. Questions?
So this jives with what I've been hearing, that the numbers at center are substantially higher. And I see that they're getting 1 half-day more out of the additional teacher than the other elementary schools are, but is that really enough for that many students? Is that,
Well,
are you
based on
getting
their
feedback
schedules-
that it's working out, or is this a real struggle for those teachers?
Yeah, I think, well, scheduling is always tricky in general, right? So given the amount of time that they're supposed to have ESL instruction, when you're looking at a schedule, an elementary schedule specifically, you cannot pull them out of their English class. So it does get a little tricky. They kind of push in here, they pull out there. So it's not like always like a good chunk of time that they could do this. But that's what they do. We've looked at the schedules and they've built in time that those students are being seen.
Okay, so I want to understand the 62, okay, receive instruction. Out of that, 12
Kindergartners.
are
So that's
that
why
don't
the number is
receive
bigger
instruction. So
than
we're
maybe
at
what you've seen in
50.
previous years for the initial amount of L students at that school. There's a larger influx of students.
And during the kindergarten, I am very bad at that word, at the K year,
Yeah.
what happens? Do some students then receive instruction because they're retested and?
They wouldn't suddenly test lower, they would test at their WIDA level, so there's only the one student. Now, the teachers do consults, similar to what we do at the preschool level, because we can consult at the preschool level, so that additional L teacher we have actually goes over to CHIPS, just to consult to make sure that those students are not in need of additional service. There hasn't been a new student. They'll do the screening of the students as they're registering. But those teachers just consult with those teachers because the kindergarten student is already immersed in English language learning. So
Oh, I see what you're saying.
you see what I'm
Okay.
saying? They're all coming in learning English at the basic level.
Okay.
So kindergarten students do not need to receive services based on
So,
the
but
state
it's still
guideline.
like 50 students. This is why,
What do you mean 50 students?
so if I take 62 minus 12,
Yes.
because they don't receive the instruction,
Well, no, it's 74 students.
Yeah.
Minus 12, 62 receive.
oh, I see. So
Yes.
it's already subtracted there, okay.
Yes, I took it out
So
for you.
it's 62.
It is 62.
It's a substantial number, I still
And
think.
again, it ebbs and flows.
I mean, I understand all teachers have to have coursework in the Chelmsford English version. So kindergarten kids are getting, I mean, all the kindergarten teachers have professional development in how to instruct kids who aren't English speakers. I get that part.
All
So-
the students
So that makes sense to
technically,
me. I just see that the number at center is so much higher that and I've heard this was an issue last year also before
Having the
this
extra L
extra
teacher.
person was hired, that I just feel like they maybe need even more of the time, certainly than Byam, for instance. I mean, South
Here's
Road's
some of your
getting up there
flexibility,
too.
right? So you do have it at the other schools. How much time do they have to go down to Westland? So there is flexibility as needed, but they did work out a schedule, making sure each of the kids are being seen.
Yeah, I just hope that the teachers feel like they're not overburdened because the schedule is so, they're looking for parity as opposed to where it's really needed. So I just want to make sure that the teacher is not feeling incredibly overwhelmed because the schedule looks fair, but is it really fair based on the numbers? That's all I'm asking, just to keep a real close tabs on how that's going.
We can't do anything else, can't give her any more help, right? At that
I
level.
think what Linda's saying is they do look at that as, even as the year goes on, because you are gonna get some movement in kids. Kids are gonna come, kids are gonna leave. And they do adjust the caseloads, but when looking at the schedule for the teachers who are servicing the kids at center, in particular in this case, all the kids are being serviced at center.
Okay. If that's, and then we can only ask again in a couple of months, how's it going?
Be flexible enough to be flexible when it's really needed, is all I'm saying.
Right.
Right?
Any other questions on this? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Like I said, just wanted to follow up because I was lingering from the last time with some more data. Fourth item on the agenda this evening is good news, actually very good news. So the MSBA reached out to us early part of last week. And we weren't scheduled to go before the MSBA board to move into the feasibility study for Parker until the end of February. But we had done all of our milestones ahead of time. We were one of the early districts to get it done. So they ended up taking 4 districts that was set to go in February up to the December meeting. So we actually attended the December board meeting on Friday afternoon and got invited into the feasibility study to begin at Parker, which is, again, fantastic. So 2 months early. It also gives us kind of a competitive edge, in my opinion, with regard to going out. The first thing you need to do is hire your own as project manager, your OPM for this. We'll be able to get working with the building committee right after the first of the year on that. I think there are 14 or 15 districts that are going to be waiting until the February meeting to get started, so we got a 2-month jump start on them. So this is just very good news overall. The MSBA board meeting was excellent. Treasurer Goldberg was super. They were very complimentary of our project, and state reps all signed on in support of the project, so we were happy to attend and be invited in. So that's a huge milestone. We're officially now approved and moving into feasibility, which we'll work on for about the next 18 months or so, 18 to 20 months. And we're still looking like we're on track at this point to, ideally, we're kind of looking the fall of '26 as the potential vote to support the school. Again, ton of work to be done during feasibility. It's going to be a lot. But to get a 2-month head start into it, I think is great for us. So happy to report that. School building committee will begin meeting right in January, and we'll be on the road, on the streets, looking for the OPM and the designer very near term. So you'll start to get regular reports on that, Joe.
Does anyone from our group happen to be on the building committee? You are?
Dennis, yep.
Good.
Yeah, I was going to ask what's the timeline, but I did see the timeline. It's pretty quick. I mean, so
It's a quick-
first couple of things are like bang, 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 so.
Yeah, this all lines up quick. You can't do anything until you get the OPM on board. So right in January, we'll meet as a school building committee, authorize the request for services to go out. We'll do that process. I think they were saying between now and like April. April, we'll have an OPM on board, then you go into the design and selection process, probably have a designer on board by the end of the summer, and then really hit the fall with a full-blown feasibility study. Those are the 2 key pieces.
When will we need to start to reach out to the community just to get, public input on things? In the fall or?
Yeah, it'll be in the fall.
Okay.
So
That's what I
it's going to
just wanted
definitely take the spring and the summer
Yeah.
to do all of our OPM and designer
Yeah.
on board. There's not a lot of public input with that.
Okay.
The summer's going to be downtime, just getting everything in place, but I would think September is when we're going to start holding most of those community visioning sessions again and kind of talking about the 3 different options. We're going to have to start talking about locations. That's when the work's going to start heavy.
Right.
6 months from now.
Great.
Yeah, the fun begins.
Any other questions?
No.
My only question is, does the slightly early, I understand other advantages of the slightly early approval. Does that potentially shift the timeline for any further steps in any meaningful way, or is it just longer in this feasibility phase?
It gives us just a little bit more wiggle room in the feasibility phase. Ultimately, we were kind of targeting that November of '26, probably for the ballot question.
And that would be the next step after feasibility?
Yeah, that would actually be picking our schematic design, picking our preferred program, and actually bringing that to the voters to have them support and hopefully begin finalizing documents. So
Okay.
that's what we're looking at. I'll update the timeline for one of the upcoming meetings, just so you have that, so you can see. But the key next step is going to be the OPM.
Thank you.
And I'd like to see us just get the word out to the community that as much as we can, that we've reached this stage, because it really lets the public know that it's not just the school department, the school committee, that the state itself recognizes the merit of this program. And I think the more people we can help understand that, the more we'll have on board.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, we did push out an announcement. We did a press release. It was on the Facebook channels and Instagram and the local news and things like that. So we'll continue to push it.
Yeah.
And it's on our website.
It is.
Forgot to check
Yeah, Jenny had done a nice job kind of keeping a whole tracking page for the project. So it's posted there as well.
Okay.
It was in my newsletter last Friday.
Yes, I saw that.
was.
But I'm not
Everybody
sure
reads
how
that,
many
of
people
course.
Yes, they do.
keep it. Yeah.
No way I'm missing it.
I did hear from someone that they're disappointed that you weren't wearing a hat.
It was kind of a boring picture this week.
I know. There's a new editor for the newsletter.
I actually, someone actually
Oh,
said that.
so you got to litter away from the,
They don't have the
graphics?
creative
Trying to get fired every day.
Creative will that other people have.
Oh, my
Just telling you
goodness.
what I heard.
What
I
are
know.
we gonna do?
Maybe there'll be a surprise someday. You don't know.
Valentine's Day, a little Cupid outfit, that'd be nice.
I'll see what we can do. See what we can do. I didn't even think about that until you just said it. But
Someone
it's-
actually said it to me.
yeah, it's been the stock photo for
Why
a
isn't he
bit.
wearing a hat?
All right, moving right along. Next up on is the capital plan update. So we talked before the last school committee meeting. Dennis also served as a rep for the capital planning committee. We had our meeting in December to reconcile all the different town and school projects. And the 10 different capital projects that the school committee prioritized were all funded. So that was good news. So the funding came in at $2.75 million. Again, the tier of programs that we had requested were funded, which included adding the secure entryway, the vestibules to all the other remaining schools, the extra emergency egress at the high school. We talked about adding a doorway down one of the hallways for better egress, a partial roof replacement for center, South Row water heater replacement, continuing with the partial roof replacement at McCarthy, and then also the boiler replacement at McCarthy. So overall, just under $6 million of town capital is going to be brought forward to town meeting in April. But it was a good, obviously good meetings for us. I think people understood the needs, were very supportive of the project, so we look forward to defending these at town meeting. And we'll be beginning the planning, because several of these, like the secure entryways, we want to actually do over the summer. So we'll be preparing the bid docs and everything to actually go out to bid this spring, just in anticipation of the funding being awarded in April, so that we actually can do the work in June. So more to come, but it was good news.
Yeah, and I think one of the good things is I want to say it's a trend setter, but the fact that we've, over the last couple of years, have really kind of prioritized and said, this is what's most important to us. All the other departments are doing that now. So, instead of having 50 projects and having to pick 20, we had 24 projects and had to pick 20. So I think that made the
I think the
process.
capital planning committee
Yeah,
appreciated that,
I
Joe.
think that made the process much more easier from our end than in the past. So that's good.
So we've become leaders in the prioritization.
Trendsetters.
This is us. This is us.
Are we good with that?
Go with that.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Well, I'd like to thank Dennis, because I think you've been
Yes, thank you.
going to these meetings for us, representing us on this, so thank you very much for doing all that.
It's a pleasure.
All right, next for action, we have the proposed school calendar for the next school year, the 2025-26 school year in front of you. Similar format with us returning to school for teacher orientation the Monday before Labor Day, and then the kids coming back that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4-day long weekend for Labor Day, and then we kick right into the school year. So on your calendar, you see all the blue days are the professional development days, all the red days are the vacation weeks. The December holiday is not going to be quite 2 full weeks next year, just based on the way the calendar
You're all
falls.
set.
But
Lana's good.
seniors at the high school, Lana's all set on
Yeah.
that one. The only thing I want to bring to your attention, the only two kind of changes we had here is we had negotiated out of contracts previously Good Friday as a holiday in April. So we do not have that on the calendar for next year. That was kind of the last religious Christian holiday we had on the calendar, and we've kind of gone non-religious specific on the calendar. And then what we've been doing is actually just recognizing all the different religions as religious holidays on the back, and anyone who subscribes to those particular religions obviously is exempt for that day. We did add to that an additional holiday, Eid al-Adha, Eid, I'm sorry.
You just call it
Eid, which is at the end of May. So that was added as a religious holiday. I guess it's one of the two major ones for that religion. So that's listed on the second page. But other than that, we keep with that pretty normal calendar. We do 186 student days, even though we only have to go 180, just to help people as far as vacation planning and things like that. That's before you, if you have any questions or concerns or thoughts.
I'm sure this is the final schedule.
Well, it usually does change a few times, but
The last one?
we're feeling pretty good about this one.
So I have a question. So from an equity point of view, I absolutely agree with taking Good Friday off as a day off from school. I think it's only right. But do you anticipate that a large number of staff members will still want that day off?
I'm hoping not, and for two reasons. That is a holiday that really is kind of hit or miss now in districts. So a lot of our neighboring districts don't have that as a day off.
Absolutely, and they haven't for
And their teachers
years.
work, and it's not an issue for them. Under our contract, staff are allowed to take a religious holiday if the tenets of their religion really require abstention from work. That doesn't necessarily happen with Good Friday. So I'm really hoping that that's not an issue for us, but we're not going to know until we try.
Yeah, just curious.
Yeah.
What your
We had, and again, this happened in the last round of negotiations, that had gotten taken out because it was contractual, and we included the Juneteenth holiday.
Yeah.
So the Juneteenth obviously went on the calendar, but we just hadn't moved the other one. I think if we had tried to move it in this current year that we were in, because it happens to butt up against April school vacation week, we already had folks that were extending their vacation, staff and students. I think that would have been problematic. But next year, where it's kind of isolated by itself in early April, I'm hoping it's less problematic.
I have an unrelated question, or rather, I guess, concern. The number one thing I hear when I speak to people about the calendar, and this is mostly coming from parents, is specifically around, and I actually hear this from educators as well, how broken November is in terms of every week there is a day off or a half day. Is there any flexibility around the November 19th half day to be moved to a different time, either in the month of May where there are currently no half days, either falling before the school year? Is there a way to not have that month have yet another thing that is broken?
Yeah, I absolutely understand what you're saying. And November is kind of a crazy month, even if you look at next year. That happens to be when we do the parent conferences. So contractually, that's the day when we do
Okay,
the
that's
elementary
right.
and the middle school conferences.
In addition to.
Yeah, so it's, because that's not really a PD day for us.
Yeah,
We just code it as
that's
a
why it's
PD day
elementary,
because it's a
middle.
half day for
PD is the
kids.
4th, but it's kind of hard to show it
Yes.
as a PD day and a no-school day, so we just leave it as a no-school day because the adults that work for us know it's a full work day. So that's the real PD day in November.
Yeah, it just feels like there's a lot
I
of
know.
these half days that all, and then like at the very beginning of December, I know there's the other one. It feels like there's a lot. all
And
at
there's
once.
no half-days in May.
Yeah.
Well, that was purposeful, so after surveying the staff, we did used to have it in May, we didn't have one in September, but they wanted to front-load September so that they could get some skills that were needed, especially if you're like launching a new curriculum or if there was a new initiative, so the May has always been moved over to September.
That makes sense to me, front loading it.
It does make sense.
By that same token, I was just wondering if there was any flexibility at the beginning of the year, but I get it.
That was
If
a
it's
tough
not
one.
intended as PD, it's intended as conferences.
Yeah, the
then-
PD day is the full election day on the
Right.
4th. We just leave it blue because that's to
High school
signify
goes
half
for a
day.
full day, though.
Right.
High school students are there for a full day. It's only elementary and middle school that, students that are released.
One other question, this is just really a question. I don't have a horse in this race, I'm just curious. When is the last time we used 6, other than COVID years when everything was askew, 6 snow days?
Well, Joanna would know for payroll purposes.
We don't talk about this that year, that was the year.
That was the year we had, it was a
I'm
2-week
assuming it was
year.
2015, which was the year
The
that
100 inches of snow year.
I was in Boston that year, but,
It's 2018.
oh, 2018.
Did we in
We had
2018?
we had to add time onto the school day. That was the year of the snowstorm after snowstorm.
right.
It was,
Yeah.
there
I
was
was
one
thinking
year
it was
we
the
had to add
15.
half a day to buy them.
Oh, that was the power issue.
Twice, yeah, 2 years in a row.
Power issue.
2 years in a row, Brian.
The
Yes.
reason I'm wondering is just, I understand adding days with the assumption of snow days, but I just didn't know if,
You have to add, you have to build
Realistically.
a schedule with 185 days. That is the regulation. Chelmsford's always done 186.
that's why I was asking, because everybody else does 5. I didn't know
No
why we
idea
were
why,
doing 6.
just,
I actually think, for whatever reason, our teacher's contract says we'll schedule 186 days.
Okay,
I don't necessarily know why. I think I'd be fine with 185, but I believe their contract says 186, and we've just always done 186.
I'm not advocating for doing something different
Yeah.
than the teacher's contract, but
Yeah.
it does feel like the vast majority of districts go for 5, and I can't remember the last time that we needed 6, but.
It wasn't that long
It's,
ago.
it's way better to think that's when you're getting out and find out you're not than to have people
right.
thinking they're done and then suddenly
And this year it would
off
actually be
on
early.
vacation. Yeah.
This year it would actually be early. It would fall before Juneteenth, which is not the case in 2020.
And then we usually announce when the last day of school is after that whole April time.
Hmm.
Then we can say this is when it is. Everybody starts doing the countdown. Beautifully at Byam, Ann Dawson counts the days every single day. She'll tell you that today is the blank day of school. So today is the 73rd day of
No,
school.
absolutely not. I can't handle that.
I love it.
She does.
No.
I need her in my life, yes.
Oh, I always did
I don't
that,
like-
counting up. It's the
didn't want-
counting backwards.
I was
know.
deployed, I used to count up and down.
Yeah,
Love it.
I did that. I
So
always did that.
I think, again, I think this calendar is solid.
Okay.
And all the elections in it?
We have all the elections that we know
I have
of.
I did, I went through the election calendar
Today.
beforehand, unless there's something that,
It should be an easy election
it's
year,
usually
right?
that September and March one, that March one,
Next year? Next year will be an easy election?
next year should only be the town election.
Yeah.
And
Right, there's no state primaries,
I'm
there's
running
no
in next year's
federal election.
Oh, no, I've just been in terms of like,
No.
not as many, there's no primaries. and stuff.
Right,
Number
no-
of
Can I make a comment
No
on that?
state elections.
What's up?
I want to make a comment on that calendar. So, just so you know, for the people that don't know, there's been a group of people within the community that have been advocating with you guys for Eid to be added to the calendar. And we just wanted to say, I mean, outside of even just the school committee, the community at large, Eid is an incredibly important holiday. A lot of the kids, you don't know that these Muslim kids that come into school, they eat before the sun comes up and they don't eat throughout the rest of the day. So to not be in school or to be able to take that day is actually really a big deal. And it's probably one of the easiest ways for somebody to be seen and be like, my religion matters too. We did this a few years back with some of the Jewish holidays. And I felt like it was the right thing then, and I'm super glad we're still doing that now. So thank you.
Yeah, no, and again, to them too, because they were very nice to speak with. I know their desire was to have us have the whole day off.
Yeah.
But, we're kind of getting away from that for all religions, but recognizing them all. So
And
that
letting
they
them
can
take it.
all take it.
Yeah.
And teachers be understanding, and it's now going to be on the list of holidays. And I think that's at least universally what this calendar does across the board.
And I like you put the policy there too for
Yeah.
Yeah.
people are out that day, the
Right.
homework policy and all that, so
Yep.
the people understand what it all involves.
I do appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
I have one tiny question. This comes up every year, so I'm sure there's logic behind it. But the 26th of November is an early release day, but it is not colored like the other early release days.
Oh,
It's still considered a full workday for staff. They're released for the half day, but for us, for like accounting purposes and everything, it counts as a full day. So it doesn't, it's like one of the 180 full day. I know
The
it's not.
half-days don't count as one of the 100?
Yes, it does, but on the calendar, I know what you're saying, it's not blue, and you like expect it to be blue for the half day.
it's confusing to not.
I mean, as a parent, I find it super confusing.
Me too.
And I get that, I know so many people who are shocked that Wednesday was a half day this year because they were looking at the calendar and didn't see a color to denote it.
You mean they thought it was a half day?
They did not know that it was a half day.
Because the
it's not
blue's
blue.
not there to give
not
you
blue.
that
Blue
visual.
designates a professional day,
Yeah.
so that would indicate a full day, right, for teachers, because the students would leave.
Parents
and the
read it as a
teachers would
half
stay.
day.
And it's in the narrative on the side under November where it says 26 early release, Thanksgiving recess.
Yeah, I'm just saying, as parents,
We look at the blue as
parents look
half
at
day.
it as,
Blue is a
when there's a
professional
color, it's something you pay attention to.
In your
If
world.
it's white, you don't pay attention
But in the
to.
blue, it means the
Yeah,
staff's
yeah,
really
interesting.
working all day.
We just make the block blue?
And that particular one, nobody's
Or can we make it
working
like
after.
Can we make it
pink?
pink
or-
teal so it stands
Yeah.
out just something?
Well, how about if we do this? What if on the,
Guys are being difficult about everything. Jesus.
well, you keep people,
does
because
green
because
mean?
the staff are leaving half day too.
No, I get it.
On the second page, where it actually lists out the scheduled days, we actually have Wednesday, November 19th is noted as a student half-day, elementary, middle school only. What if we listed it right under that?
I don't know what your opinion is.
I mean, that's fine. I still think like having it be slightly different color. I mean, we have different colors for August. Why can't we add like a pink or a purple or something? But, it is a minuscule thing. It is not going to stop me from approving the calendar. I'm just sharing as somebody who's been using these calendars now for several years.
See, we're in the
Every single
parent
year
side
it
of
trips
things.
me
Yeah.
up, and I get tons of questions from other parents about it.
It's confusing to me too, because I have to look and see which days do I have to go pick up early. And if it's not color-coded, I'm not gonna see that. I know what you're saying.
It's the only day in the entire year that is an early release for kids that is not otherwise noted in color. I know that it's written, but not everybody looks at the writing.
Yeah.
There's a reason why there's the printed
All right,
calendar in
let-
addition.
Let me, it's not going to change the day.
Yeah,
It's not going to really change the calendar. Let me see if there's something I can do color-wise.
that would be great.
Do you need a
changing
vote?
it
We can
already.
vote on it.
I'm just changing the color.
It's a joke, I know. I know you're not gonna work.
Maria?
All right, any other questions on the calendar?
No, that was great.
No.
Take a
Okay.
motion.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this motion. I move that we accept the proposed 2025/26 school year calendar with a minor change of a collar added to the 26th of November, and the collar shall be of the superintendent's choosing.
Second.
I like
That's
clear.
quite the motion. All
Come
right,
on,
we have
Diana's team.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0.
That was a fun motion.
That was a good one.
We'll get that out in the next newsletter.
I do appreciate that. I mean, people are visual, so.
I am visual, and to me, I always have to
I'll
say,
personally
what
color
happened to
code your
that one?
calendars for you.
Thank you.
Can't wait.
Next up is just also sticking on the theme of calendars, just for us, for our own planning purposes, just a reminder and to kind of set our dates for the budget calendar. But the proposed calendar for 26 consideration is consistent with previous years. So the first meeting in February, which is the 4th, I would provide the superintendent's recommended budget to you and all of the background, provide a little bit of an overview. And then we would, because the February vacation week falls, so we always meet the Tuesday after. So we would actually have Tuesday, February 25th, be the posted public hearing on the budget. That would be the night that we go page by page and answer questions and concerns and things along those lines. And just again, because weather can come up at that time of the year, we would just also hold tentatively our next meeting, which is March 11th, as an additional budget hearing day in the event that we need it. So we have to send a notice out to the town meeting reps in case they wanted to attend. They typically don't, but if they wanted to, and we'll just note those two as our public budget hearings. So consistent with what we've done in the past, but just for you to acknowledge and hopefully agree with.
Any questions on the budget calendar? Take a motion to approve?
Motion.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget calendar timeline as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the personnel report for the month of November. Just details a couple of new hires we had join the district and a couple of resignations. The significant activity will begin in the spring when we start posting, but this is your activity for the month of November. Happy to answer any questions, but no formal action needed.
I noticed that it's an unusual time to have a science teacher leave and be newly hired. Was this not anticipated?
At all. No, we did have a science teacher leave the high school to go teach in a different district, and we had to hire mid-year, which isn't typical. I was happy that we were able to hire a replacement for them. And it actually lined up fairly well. So we worked with the other district as far as kind of the notification of when the person was going to be able to leave, which gave us a little bit of time to post and hire. And we were able to hire and have the person start. Our teacher left on a Friday, the new teacher started on a Monday, so it was as good as we could be. But yes, that is unusual.
Chemistry teachers, you can't trust them.
Yes,
No.
there we go.
All right, any other questions on the personnel? Okay.
And then last for me is just approval of a field trip. This is the McCarthy Middle School students who are enrolled in world language who would like to go to Quebec City, Canada for a French cultural exchange and enrichment opportunity. And this is from May 2nd to 4th. So seeking your approval of that field trip.
Take a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the McCarthy Middle School grade 8 students enrolled in French world language, French culture, and language enrichment experience, which would be from May 2nd through the 4th, 2025, Quebec City, Canada.
Anybody else?
I second.
There you go.
Wonderful.
Sharing the love.
Any questions on the field trip? This is their traditional one. They've done this for 8 years,
I
right?
did this in 8th grade in my town.
Doing it
so-
for a
Yeah,
long
yeah.
time.
Mexican
Very
folks.
nice.
It sounds like a great
All right,
trip.
all those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
And that concludes my items.
All right, great. Anyone have any liaison reports?
I have one. I was at the McCarthy and Parker PTO meeting on the 12th. And in general, all is going well. There was very good, McCarthy noted there was very good turnout at their conferences, maybe even better than they expected, more parents coming, which was great. We got to hear a lot about some of the things that you already knew about it with all the concerts and exciting things happening this time of year. The band, chorus, and orchestra are invited to be performing at the middle school day at a Red Sox game on May 6th, which is exciting. And at Parker, their Be the Change project, which is student-led during the SEL block, kind of organized by team, is really successfully running. They had a successful craft fair, and there is work toward a science fair happening in March. There's a committee meeting to hopefully plan and organize that. It would likely be at Parker, but there is some discussion about whether potentially McCarthy students who might be interested could also be there if there's capacity for students from both schools. And I heard that apparently 10 people went to Officer Lindstadt's presentation on internet safety.
Anybody else, liaison?
I attended the Harrington PTO meeting on December 4th. They have a very active, complete committee working on all of their fourth grade events for the end of the year, and they're really excited about that. They have some upcoming events. On January 18th, they have Night at the Riverhawks. On January 25th, there will be a movie night at the school. That's a drop-off event where parents can drop their kids off to see a movie at the school, and they are really working hard on making sure there's a very secure process for kids being dropped off and picked up again. I was really glad to hear that they're really working on making sure that that's really done very carefully. So that's great. They've done some really nice teacher appreciation events. They did something called Stock the Staff Room with all kinds of snacks and supplies. They had a candy apple bar. They're constantly working on things they can do to keep the staff happy. They're going to be running the Scholastic Book Fair. That'll be the week of February 10th to 14th.
Center didn't meet. It's next month.
All right, my report is one that everybody's familiar with here, but maybe some of the people at home, where we had our tri-board meeting last Monday, where we meet with the select board, finance committee, town manager, just to get an idea of what town finance will look like. And not surprisingly, the outlook for next year isn't quite as positive as been in the past. So according to the town manager, we're looking at like a $2.5 million shortfall. And that's for level funded budget. So if all the departments just had all the same services before and they had their contracted increases, their utilities, all that stuff, nothing extra, we'd be $2.5 million short as a town. So in order to deal with that, all the different town departments are going to have to come up with some sort of cutting measures or other ways of funding that shortfall. And I think that all makes sense. I think the one concern that I had from that meeting is just that it seemed like they were asking the school department to take a big bite of that. And I just want to make sure that, that everybody, all the departments are kind of doing their part. That, although we do make up a good portion of the town budget, we don't make up the whole budget. So I'm hoping that superintendent can work with the town manager to just make sure things are spread out equitably, I guess is the best way of putting it, so.
Yeah, no, I know that meeting was a little, I don't know, it's like surprising or just like some of the content. I had gone into this year knowing that it was going to be a very challenging year. I don't think we're looking to be adding a lot of positions. I think we're looking level service across the board. I didn't think originally the level of reductions were going to be as significant as the town manager had laid out. For us, it's just going to be a very challenging year with contract negotiations going forward for all of our unions. We've got to account for that in our budget so that we have a set-aside reserve for negotiations. And it's just going to be a very tight, lean year. We've been working with, building staff already on building the budget for next year. So, my work obviously, the next couple of weeks should be a little quieter with the breaks, holiday break coming up, but will be to continue to kind of refine that budget and try to figure out exactly where we may be able to reallocate some funding. We might be looking at reductions in certain areas, but to produce by mid to late January in timeline for the town manager's budget, a budget that really does maintain the integrity of what we're providing in the schools. The staff and services we're providing now, I think, are excellent. I don't want to see any type of a cut that's going to impact that. Our population, again, I think this is happening in most districts, but particularly post-COVID, are very, challenging. We have a lot of needs that are coming up with our students, and we have to be very careful with regard to how we manage our funds and manage the supports that we have in place, making sure that we're maintaining them and that we're not doing anything to compromise ultimately the education product that we're putting out. So I'll be working very closely over the next couple of weeks to continue to refine that, to make it as look for efficiencies where I can, but to do things that aren't going to, again, hurt the integrity of our budget. So I'll be doing that. I'll work with Town Manager Cohen on that and hopefully have something to report back to you by, again, early to mid-January, so that when he does his budget the last week in January, there are no surprises. And then we do our budget the first meeting in February, again, there are no surprises.
And I think one of the things that was highlighted during the night too is, when we compare ourselves to other districts, we're towards the bottom in terms of what we're expending per pupil. And yet, when we look at ourselves academically, we're up there. So we get a pretty good bang for our buck right now. So we wouldn't want to, put ourselves in a bad situation where we're spending even less and we're not getting that.
It's already pretty lean.
Right, exactly, and not getting the results that we currently get, so.
And I think tonight's presentation by McCarthy, the middle school, really pointed out that, the decisions that we are making in terms of any programs that are being created that have to be staffed and so on, are being done strategically, and they're being done to meet the needs of the population that currently exists. And that was pretty clear from what we saw here, so.
All right. Any other liaisons?
I'm just a central office liaison. Thank you so much for the popcorn. I think I ate most of them, but thank you so much. We always love our PTO at central office.
All right, anyone have any new items they want to bring up? I had one, and I don't know if everybody read, we got an MASC bulletin about MCAS and where it stands and, what happens to like seniors that haven't passed it yet.
Yeah.
So I guess I have one question, hopefully you can answer now, and then a longer term question. Do we have any seniors that haven't passed the MCAS yet?
Yes,
Okay, all right,
not many.
okay, all right. And are we in process?
They did take the November retake.
Okay,
That
which-
goes on the 16th of January.
So that would count then if they did?
Correct.
Okay, that's good. And are we in the process of coming up with, what do they call them, the?
Competency determinations.
Competency
We
determinations.
just had started that conversation today
Okay,
at high school.
We actually have a webinar tomorrow with Desi as well, to kind of get a little deeper into it. So I think we'd be ready to do a presentation for you sometime after the new year.
I'd love to hear a presentation on where that stands once you feel like you're in a place where you're able to share.
I say Linda will be doing a presentation on that when we get to, probably at some point, probably in January,
is
before we
the
get into the
coursework
budget.
based, how's it gonna
Yeah,
work?
we have some ideas around that, because obviously coursework is important,
Yeah.
right? But, there'd have to be some process around that coursework. So those were the discussions we were actually having today at the high school, because we have like a separate high school council meeting.
Okay.
And those were the discussions we were having, so we'll get there, we'll figure it out, we'll do a good job.
All right,
Unfortunately for us, we do not have a significant number of students that
Yeah.
we're dealing with right now. There are other districts that are in, a lot worse shape, trying to come up with this quickly. It's a very manageable number.
We also have to figure out the process for those students that didn't receive a diploma all the way back to 2016.
right, I can't believe that part,
Yes,
wow.
I can.
Right.
Wow, that's,
It's
It's more
fine,
work.
yeah,
we got it. No problem, we
but-
have it.
you gotta, all right, so when you have a better idea, if you could put that on the agenda somewhere, that'd be great.
We
All
will.
right, any other new items?
It's important.
All right, if not, there's no public comment that I can see, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Oh, all right, all right.
Woo, swooped
All
right
those
in.
in favor?
Turn.
Aye.
Aye.
5-0.
I think we all got one in today.
Oh, my